very simple introduction. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna himself, but not in the complexion of Krishna, because Krishna's complexion is sham, or blackish, like a rain cloud, that kind of blackish. But he's Gora Hari. He's golden, because Krishna wanted to experience the love of Radha towards Krishna. It's a very nice discussion about this in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And as far as Sanskrit rules are concerned, the subject may have love for the object, but the object of love will not be able to experience the emotions of the subject regarding the object. So although he's the personality of Godhead and he knows everything, that's one thing he didn't know, what's the love that Radha feels for me. The qualities in me that inspire that love, and the happiness she feels in her love for me. Three things. And so Krishna chose to appear as if in the complexion of Radha and the mood of Radha, and experience the love that Radha has for Krishna. That's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is. Krishna himself in the mood and the complexion of Radharani. In addition, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, those were internal reasons, 3 internal reasons for Lord Chaitanya's appearance, described in the biography of his life, Chaitanya Charitamrita. Simultaneously, there were some external reasons. One of those external reasons, a very important one, was establishing the Yuga Dharma. Yuga Dharma means the means of achieving perfection during a particular yuga, this being Kali Yuga. And so he appeared to give the primary means for achieving spiritual elevation up to perfection for this, especially customized for this age, the chanting of the holy name. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Eva Kevalam, Kalo, in this age of Kali, Kalo, Nascheva, 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 Gatiranyata. In this age of Kali, there isn't another means. Other means indicating, say it 3 times, is for 2 reasons. One, absolute. Something said 3 times is like, that's it. Another, na asti eva, there isn't another alternative. There isn't another alternative. There isn't another alternative. Absolute. Another implication of saying 3 times is there's 4 yugas, this being Kali, that's the 4th. So what would be effective in Satyug, Tretayug, and Dwapayug is not going to be equally effective in the age of Kali. Thus 3 times. Satyug, Tretayug, Dwapayug. For Kali, there's only this chanting of the holy name. So he did. He gave the Yuga Dharma, and he experienced the love that Radha has for Krishna, although he's Krishna himself. That's a quick snapshot picture of who was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. According to Bhagavad Gita, there are 3 purposes when Krishna comes. Sambhavami yuge, from age to age, from time to time, Krishna comes, and he does 3 things. 1, he gives protection to the devotees, pritranaya sadhunam. He annihilates the duskritis, and he restores dharma, dharma samstha. So generally when avatar forms of the Supreme Lord appear, they give teachings that restore the principles of Dharma. Dharma is eternal. Sanatana Dharma is eternal Dharma, but maybe get covered and forgotten and confused. So generally speaking, when the form of the Lord appears, some features, plural, features of Sanatana Dharma are given in the form of teachings. Dharma samstha. Samstha. He establishes Dharma, reestablishes Dharma. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did that in a unique way. He didn't write, but he taught. He taught many, 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 and of those who he taught, some he identified that he wanted them to write what he taught. And amongst them, the 6 Goswamis. I assume most of you are familiar with the 6 Goswamis. Principal associates amongst many, many elevated associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They were given 3 services: reside in Vrindavan, take the teachings that I've explained, I empower you to realize them, and I also empower you to write them so that others can understand. So he didn't have to go around writing books, he could just chant and dance. But they wrote the books. However, at least the history of Mahaprabhu's life says that there are 8 verses, ashtakas, that he personally, he didn't write, but he spoke and repeated them. And so we're going to be discussing the first of those 8. Shiksha Ashtaka, or Shikshastaka. 8 instructions. And to make it simple and easy to follow, I've been, for the first 2 days, last 2 evenings, we're covering these 7 excellences, the features of the first verse of Shikshastaka. Here's the first verse of Shikshastaka, shown on your screen. And we'll say it together if you like. Cheto darpanam arjanam vavamahadavagi nirvapanam Shreya kairava chandrika vitaranam vidyavadu jivanam anandam buddhi vardhanam pratipadam purnamratasvadanam sarvatma snapanam param vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. So the refrain is param vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. So this is Lord Chaitanya describing what Shri Krishna Sankirtanam is made up of. 7 successive excellences that come from Shri Krishna Sankirtan. So param vijayate, all victory. Param vijayate, supreme victory from the Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. And so far we discussed the first 4. We didn't get very far. So hopefully this evening we'll cover the final 3. And in the way it's composed, they're sequential. Not exactly a bucket, and then when the bucket is full, then the next bucket, and then that one's full, then the next bucket. Not exactly like that, but sequentially, the first thing that happens for one who is engaged in Sri Krishna Sankirtan is Chaitadarpana Marjanam. So I'm not going to give the class all over again, but just quickly summarize. Chaitadarpana Marjanam means the coverings, the dirty things, or the material contamination, consciousness, the mirror of the mind is Chaita. It has different implications. Consciousness becomes cleansed. Coverings of consciousness become cleansed. The dust of the mirror that's been accumulated so many dusts for years together become cleansed. Lifetimes. Jita Darpana Marjanam. Second, Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam. The Davagni means a forest fire. Agni means fire. Agni means fire. You heard that one before?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Okay. Agni means fire. And Davagni is a forest fire. And Mahadavagni, big blazing forest fire. Of what? Bhava. Bhava means misery. It's a very different word than bhava. They have very different meaning. Bhava is ecstasy and bhava is misery. So bhava, mahadavagni nirvapanam, it extinguishes the blazing fire of material existence, repeated birth and death, and all the things that happen between birth and death that are unwanted. The power of the chanting of the holy name is those things become extinguished. The example that's given commonly, Prabhupada's example, if there's a blazing forest fire, you can bring all the fire engines and buckets and hoses, and it's not going to put out the forest fire. There's one thing that can put out a forest fire. Downpour, deluge of rain, just like it rained yesterday here in Houston. It'll put out the forest fire. Lots of smoke, but it'll put out the forest fire. So the chanting of the holy name, Sankirtan, has that effect. Repeated birth and death, miseries of material birth and death, extinguished. Nirvapanam. That's 2. Then 3, Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam. Chandrika, Chandra means moon. Chandra means moon. You seen the moon?
Yeah.
Yesterday was Ekadasi. It was a big, big, bright. It was really nice. Tonight's going to be a little bigger. Heading for Purnima, for the full moon. So Chandra, Ika is a diminutive term. It's sun, the moonlight. So I'm looking at you 4 kids. Have you seen a lotus before? No? Yes, no, maybe. Not sure. Lotuses, there's a pattern. Lotuses generally, they grow in water, like a pond. And then during the daytime, the petals of the lotus open in the sunshine. And when the sun sets, the petals of the lotus close. It's night. The lotus is closed. So in this age, which is the age of Kali, which is a dark age, the lotus closes, the lotus of good fortune. Chandrika, Kairava, Shreya Kairava. But the white lotus of good fortune closes at night, but in the presence of the holy name, it opens. Vitaranam means it expands. So it's a metaphor, it's a poetic metaphor, where the white lotus of good fortune during the darkness of the night of Kali closes, but it opens in the presence of Sankirtan. So good fortune spreads throughout everywhere by the benefit that comes from the chanting of the holy name. And then Vidya Vadhu Jivanam. Jivanam, it's indicating the life, literally, the life of the wife or young bride, Vadhu. Vidya, it's the life of the wife of transcendental knowledge. So she, this wife of transcendental knowledge, gives, or it's female, gender, vidya, vadhu, it's knowledge, transcendental knowledge awakens just from chanting of the holy name. Supposing you're not a learned fellow or learned young girl, supposing you're not so learned, chant. When something happens, what happens? Vidya vadhu jivanam. The message that's there in the Bhagavatam, it corresponds with this number 4, is a very nice verse from Canto 1, Chapter 2. Canto 1, Chapter 2 has a verse that says, Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojataha Janiyat Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yadahaitukam. Vairagya means detachment, and vairagya and transcendental knowledge. Jnana, it says in the verse, that here is vidya, similar. Education or knowledge. An educated person has knowledge. One who engages in chanting, knowledge awakens spontaneously. You don't have to read lots of books. You don't have to be a smart fellow or gal. You just chant. And something as this fourth progression, knowledge awakens, transcendental knowledge awakens, up to the stage of realizing one's spiritual identity, realizing one's eternal relationship with the Supreme. Very elevated. You just keep going and become effective in chanting. So that's what we covered so far. That's the first 4 of 7. And now comes number 5. Anandam Bodhi Vardhanam. Vardhanam means increasing. Ambodhi means ocean. And Ananda, that ocean of bliss. So the happiness, along with knowledge and detachment awakening, there's at the soul level, not the physical or mind level, but at the soul level, there's a natural inclination for transcendental happiness. And this is now, according to the stage of bhakti, this is Bhava Bhakti. What's Bhava Bhakti? According to Rupa Goswami's teachings, there are 3 stages of devotional service. Practice, Bhava, Sadhana Bhakti, Bhava Bhakti, Prema Bhakti. So we're now entering into the Bhava Bhakti stage of unfolding or awakening of bhakti. The message is that the chanting of the holy name can carry one. You take shelter of the holy name, it can carry you into that realm of Bhava Bhakti. That's Ananda. Bhava, this 5th excellentest one, which the waves of spiritual emotion splash within the devotee's melted hearts. Quote these as metaphors, a nice poetic description. And in this stage, it's just the awakening. But gradually, as that stage unfolds, it becomes more pronounced and more mature. Now it's just speaking of the not yet fully matured ecstasies. Spiritual development in this stage no longer depends upon material conditions. Since contaminations and material conditioning have been uprooted, bhava proceeds unimpeded, abundantly manifesting flowers of the bhakti creeper, soon to transform into prema. So it's the prelude to prema, the ecstasies. But the ecstasies is not feigned, it's something that's from the soul. Like sometimes people cry, sometimes people feign crying, boo-hoo, and sometimes just a spontaneous, ecstatic crying, or trembling of the body, or hair standing on end, or Even in material circumstances, those symptoms, bodily transformations can be experienced or exhibited, but not in relation to the Supreme. So it's a emotional state. Bhava is an emotional state, but what's in relation to the Supreme, it's a whole other realm of reality. It's like reality as opposed to the shadow. I remember one of the things we did when we were kids, it was a fun time, I was a kid. We looked at the clouds in the sky and we imagined there's a cloud in the sky and that cloud is a lion. But then as the wind blew, the lion became a pussycat. And then the pussycat just disappeared and then came along something else and came along something else. So we were imagine the personification of the shape of the clouds, but it was all impermanent, always. Shape of clouds is impermanent, and everything in this world is impermanent. It's a shadow of reality. This world is a shadow of reality, and then there's reality that casts a shadow. And bhava is approaching the reality. And as one approaches reality, the emotions that one feels naturally, not pretentiously or feigning some emotion, just happens. One will something. I'm thinking of a nice example. Here's a nice example. There's many. In Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, there's the Panchatattva. In the center of the Panchatattva, there's Krishna Chaitanya. Next to him, Prabhu Nityananda. Next to him, Sri Advaita. Then going back the other side, Sri Gadadhar and Srivas. You're familiar with the Panchatattva mantra? Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas. So Gadadhar was about the same age as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in their Leela, and Gadadhar, from his very childhood, was very renounced. It wasn't cosmetic, he just was very detached and very attached to Lord Chaitanya and attached to Krishna because Lord Chaitanya is Krishna. He's very attached, spiritually elevated person, and just had no interest at all in materialism, material comforts, material things. He lived as a brahmachari his whole life, and he was very happy. It wasn't like an austere brahmachari, he was just very happy. So one of his friends was good at singing. His name was Mukunda. Really good at singing. He liked to sing for Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya liked to hear his singing. And he sang very beautifully. Very, very beautiful singer. So one time, Mukunda invited Gadadhar to go meet someone from his hometown, from the village from which he came, and trusting Mukunda that Gadadhar knows my nature. Gadadhar is thinking, he knows my nature, I'm not interested in material stuff. So he's going to take me to a sadhu. But much to his surprise, when they met Pundarik Vijayanidhi, he looked just the opposite. A sense gratifier with perfume and fancy clothes and hookah pipes and, lounging around, and Gadadhar thought, why did he bring me here? I want to get out of here. This is yuck. Because Mukunda knew Gadadhar very well, he knew his mind, Plus, his facial expression was very clear. He was really uncomfortable in the presence of this sense gratifier guy who was just meeting for the first time. So Mukunda, knowing that, and Mukunda being very skilled in singing, and Mukunda knowing verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, he sang 2 verses from Srimad Bhagavatam. And the 2 verses from Srimad Bhagavatam that he sang was a description of the mercy that Krishna showed to Putana. Although Putana came as a witch, Krishna delivered her and gave her the position of a maidservant, the mother of children in the spiritual world. Who can be kinder? Who can be more merciful than Krishna? That's one of the verses he sang. He sang 2 verses, and melodious, sweet-sounding voice, but it was the message that when Pundarik Vidyadhari heard these 2 verses being sung, he fell off his nice bed, couch, and started rolling on the ground in bhava, exhibiting symptoms of, he lost control of his faculties and was calling out Krishna's name very loudly, very loudly, very loudly, rolling and rolling and rolling. His clothes got torn and he just lost it. And then Gadadhar understood, wow, you can't judge a book by its cover. What's inside is what's really the person is. The outside, because Pundarik was wanting to conceal his spiritual elevated nature. So one of the ways was act like a worldly person, dressed like a worldly person, perfumes and the whole thing. But it wasn't his position. His position was disclosed by hearing messages sung by Mukunda from the Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's the bhava stage, that's preliminary to the prema stage. So that's what this excellence number 5 is. Ambudhi means an ocean, Ambudhi. And there's oceans of salt water, but there's oceans of Ananda. Ananda, Ambudhi. It's a different kind of ocean. And Radharani, one of the names of Radharani is Ananda Chinmaya Rasa. Ananda Chinmaya Rasa. Radharani. So she's the personification of this ocean of Ananda. The opposite is the material aspect, the shadow aspect, that's Maya Shakti. That's the Lord's power of illusion, Maya Shakti. The painting is a nice painting. It's showing the 3 modes of nature and the presiding deities of the 3 modes of nature. In the center, that's Vishnu, and to his right or to our left, that's Brahma, and to his right, left, or our right, that's Lord Shiva, the presiding deities of the 3 modes, and Maya Shakti works in that way. But that's the reflection of the internal potency. The internal potency is the Ananda portion of Krishna's internal potency, known as Yogamaya. Yogamaya. Radharani is the Ananda portion of Yogamaya. In Vrindavan, there's a place where Krishna performed rasa dance with the gopis at Vangsivat. And in Vangsivat, near Vangsivat, there's a little temple that shows this nice deity of Yogamaya. And here's a close-up of Yogamaya deity. So Yogamaya has her counterpart, the reflection, Mahamaya. So take your pick. Mahamaya, Yogamaya. It's not a difficult choice. But somehow people find difficulty making the choice. because there's affinity for enjoyment of the senses, not spiritual enjoyment. So those persons need to do more chanting and experience Ananda Ambudivardhanam. Here's Bhakti Vinod Thakur in one of his Sharanagati songs. That person is a true preceptor, or a true father, a true mother, and a true friend, also only if they teach one to always remember the holy name of Sri Hari alone is everything. During our Japa retreat, we'll be singing one of these songs. This Bhaktivinoda Thakur has taken it from another writing, Kevalastakam, and we'll hear some more about that during the Japa retreat. But because the chanting of the holy name brings one in contact with this Anandam Buddhivardhanam, it increases the ocean of transcendental bliss as much as the heart is relieved of unwanted habits. That's the cleansing part, the sadhana part. Then the bhava part. To that degree we become elevated, become devoted to Krishna, as much as devotion is firmly fixed, that's nishtha. To that degree we acquire realized knowledge, vidyavadu jivanam. As much as the heart is illuminated by both devotion and knowledge, to that degree we taste spiritual happiness. In this way the ocean of bliss swells. So now we're just two remaining, 6 and 7. You ready? Because now we're gonna keep going up. We went on the doorstep of prema in terms of bhava bhakti, but now we're going to hear further the amrita, or the nectar, purna amrita, of the chanting of the holy name. Pratipadam, at every step, purnam amrita asvadanam. We can, or the elevated Vaishnavas can experience this amrita at every step. Amrita, one of the meanings of amrita is just a generalist nectar, but that by which one becomes deathless. You may know the churning of the milk ocean. One of the things that was produced was nectar. And for the demigods, there in the back, on the right is the demons, they wanted the nectar of deathlessness, or the nectar of somarasa. And Mohini Murti came, took that vessel that had the amrita, and the demons were chasing after not just Mohini Murti, but chasing after the nectar. The nature of the chanting of the holy name is beyond samarasa of the heavenly planets. There's deathlessness, purna amrita, and that soul's eternal position in Goloka. This is a painting taken from Brihat Bhagavatamrita. What's Brihat Bhagavatamrita? It's a nice commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. And it's in 2 parts. And this is the second of 2 parts. It narrates this young boy, Gopakumar, because he was from a village in Vrindavan, so he was a Gopa, cowherd boy. And his name was Kumar, Gopakumar, young cowherd boy. And as he was living in Vrindavan, the narration goes from the very beginning, he saw one Brahmin, and the Brahmin he became very fascinated with. He saw a character of this Brahmin to be something very, very attractive, and so he wanted to hang out with him and be with him and learn from him. And at one point he asked the Brahmana, we didn't even know his name, we just saw his qualities and character, could you give me mantra? And sure enough, the elder Brahmana gave him mantra. He gave him Gopal mantra or Madan Gopal mantra. And for the rest of this, and he told him to always chant and never stop chanting. And Amrita will be what you'll experience in the course of time. So that's what happened. The Amrita resulted in that what you see in this painting. He returned to the spiritual world because he was already from Vrindavan, but he went to Goloka Vrindavan in the spiritual world, and Krishna met him. When Krishna saw Gopakumar, he recognized him and embraced him, as you see, and said, Gopakumar, you finally came. This is very sweet. I thought, maybe you'll come in this lifetime, but you didn't come. Maybe the next lifetime, but you didn't come. And so many lifetimes passed, you didn't come, and now you've come, please never leave. And Gopakumar said, I'll never leave, I'll never leave. Purna Amrita, becoming reinstated in our spiritual, eternal position in the spiritual world. That's excellence number 6. In the verses that are describing the 6 Goswamis, it says that they prema amrita ambo nidhi. Ambo means water. And they were in this nidhi, this ocean of prema amrita. All 6 of them. That's their nature. There's a series of another Ashtaka. Sad Goswami Ashtaka, describing the 6 Goswamis, and this is a line from that song. Prema Amrita Ambodhi, Ambo Nidhi. Same book I mentioned, this Brihat Bhagavatamrita. This is, you see the same, that's the cover, that's Krishna embracing Gopakumar at the fruit of his chanting of his mantra. One of the things that Gopakumar did is before he went to Goloka, he passed through Vaikuntha. And the Vaikuntha Dutas were inviting him, please come to Vaikuntha, it's very nice there. And they're saying to Gopakumar, dearer to the Lord than even his own beautiful form, his easily worshipped holy name benefits the entire world indeed. Nothing is as full of nectar, sa rasam, as the holy name of the Lord. And it invites one to the stage of prema, and that's coming with the final excellence. That's a very old painting of Rupa Goswami. He looks very slender, and he's dressed very simply, loincloth only. According to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, this stage of bhava or rati for Krishna derives even the conception of liberation, and you can read about it in Nectar Devotion, if you like. Characteristics of pure devotion. One of Rupa Goswami's writings, in addition to this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu or Nectar of Devotion, Prabhupada translated, is a book called Padyavali. In Padyavali, they're a collection of verses. Padyavali. Rupa Goswami has gathered from different sources, phrases or prayers or sayings that he likes. He put it in the book, Padyavali. So one of them is from Vyasadeva, Namachintamani Krishnas, Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha, Purna Shuddho Nityamukto Pinatvam Nama Namino. This verse became the title of a book written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Harinam Chintamani. Nice book. A very nice book. Here's the translation. The holy name of Krishna is transcendently blissful. It bestows all spiritual benedictions, for it is Krishna himself, the reservoir of all pleasure. Krishna's name is complete, and it is the form of all transcendental mellows. It is not a material name under any condition, and it is no less powerful than Krishna himself. Since Krishna's name is not contaminated by material qualities, there's no question of its being involved with Maya. Krishna's name is always liberated and spiritual. It is never conditioned by the laws of material nature. This is because the name of Krishna and Krishna himself are identical. That's the last line. Abhinna. Bhinna means difference. Abhinna means non-different. Abhinna, tvam, having the quality of non-difference, abhinna tvam, nama namino, name and the object named. Krishna is the name and the object named are non-different. The form of Krishna and the name of Krishna are non-different. So all the above is true because the non-difference between the name and the person. So this is Padyavali number 26. Another is 28. This is by Sridhar Swami, a very celebrated commentator on the Bhagavatam. O Lord, is your impersonal spiritual effulgence not always present everywhere? Even so, it has not been able to break even a single small leaf from the tree of repeated birth and death. On the other hand, the moment your holy name is taken by the tongue, it thoroughly shatters the tree of birth and death down to its root. That's Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvampanam. Of these two, the spiritual effulgence or the holy name, which should be served? Very nice. Sridhar Swami. This is Chaitanya Charitamrita. There's a nice Bengali phrase, here it is translated in English. Pure love for Krishna is eternally established in the hearts of the living entities. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunoi in Bengali. It is not something to be gained from another source. When the heart is purified by hearing and chanting, this love naturally awakens. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunoi Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte. Consciousness becomes Shuddha. Shuddha Chitte. And as consciousness becomes Shuddha, that love awakens. Pratipadam at every step. Now we're ready, I think, for the seventh excellence. If we perform Nama.
Can you bring that previous one?
This?
Yeah.
It's just, you can look it up. Madhya Lila 22, 107. If we perform Nam Sankirtan with love, we will see Krishna, either internally or externally at every step. One of the recordings I heard when I was a young devotee, I remember very clearly, Prabhupada was being interviewed by a newspaper reporter. Swamiji, have you ever seen Krishna? Prabhupada, if I told you, would you believe me? Reporter, yeah. Prabhupada, not only I have seen Krishna, but I see Krishna at every moment. Now do you believe me? But this is the stage of consciousness that becomes evolved through the congregation chanting of the holy name without offense. and enables us to taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. We're ready for excellence 7. When devotees finally achieve the perfectional stage of chanting, the perfection of chanting, they taste the full nectar of loving devotion to Krishna, a nectar that makes the bliss of liberation seem insignificant. This is from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that the ocean of liberation swings to like the amount of water in the hoofprint of a calf. Nice comparison. Hoofprint of not just a cow, a calf. When calves walk, they make an imprint in the earth. You fill up the water in the imprint of that calf, that's the comparison of impersonal liberation. The happiness of impersonal liberation compared to an ocean. Not much to compare. The ocean of Anandam Bodhivardhanam. And finally, Atma Snapanam. So when you take your bath in the morning, that's Snapanam. And then you chant, that's Atma Snapanam. It's the bathing of the self. And it works for everyone. Sarvatma Snapanam. It gives a cooling effect to everyone. Sarvatma Snapanam. There's this, the devotee that's next to Srila Prabhupada is his personal servant. From time to time, different devotees would have that opportunity. And for wherever Prabhupada would travel, they would travel with him and do whatever it was that he needed. However, whatever he was doing, whatever he was up to, the occasion came that a new book was published, everything would stop. Whatever he was doing. I mean, he could have been with a guest. Whatever he was doing, everything stopped. And he looked at the book, he opened the cover, he checked the quality of the printing because he knew about it. And it was fixed because so much of his life was dedicated to providing the Bhaktivedanta purports. So here, this is a publication by Macmillan. Macmillan is a big company. At one point they agreed to publish his book. I forget the number. It was an abridged copy. Prabhupada went with it. So they printed whatever the number was. It was instantly sold out, like within a month. 500,000 copies, and it was sold out. Some big number like that. And they were shocked. And they said, we have so many editions of Bhagavad Gita, they don't sell. But this one is, we can't keep it in print. So they then finally agreed, after some reprints of the abridged version, to print an unabridged version. That's what this is the painting of, or photograph of. Prabhupada received the first, from the publisher, Macmillan, the unabridged Bhagavad Gita hardcover. And they also sold out. In part because of the content, and also because of the enthusiasm that the book distributors received from our founder Acharya, distribute. It wasn't a glorification of him or a monetary thing. It was the mission, giving knowledge of Krishna to the dark age of Kali. Chanting frees conditioned souls of the illusion of identifying themselves with their body and mind, and establishes them in the cleansed and cooling reality that they're eternal spiritual entities. Cooling effect, sarvatma snapanam, like bathing cools the body. Param vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtan. This is the concluding phrase for the congregational chanting of the holy name. Let there be victory. Param vijayate, transcendental victory. in the chanting of the holy name. There I finished. Took me 3 sessions. But we finished. But we're not finished yet. We have still Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtan to do for a long, long time. I'm going to tell a little Prabhupada story, and then we'll see if there's discussion. The scene is 3 disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta. One was Krishnadas Babaji, and another was Prabhupada, and another was Ban Maharaj. Ban Maharaj is, during Bhaktisiddhanta's time, it was a big production, purposely by Bhaktisiddhanta, that to take the message to the English-speaking parts of the world. So he, Bhaktisiddhanta, orchestrated the whole thing. They had a big festival, sending 2 sannyasis, Ban Maharaj and another, to England to bring the message of Krishna Bhakti to the people of England, the English-speaking parts of the world. They spent some time, they came back empty-handed. A few people, a small center somewhere in Germany, and that was it. They came back disappointed. His name is Ban Maharaj, the lead sannyasi of the 2. And Prabhupada, they both had the same assignment from Bhaktisiddhanta. So Krishnadas Babaji was a different type of person. He was a Babaji. Bhaktisiddhanta wasn't in favor of Babaji. He was in favor of Goshthianandi, preaching. But this one person, he approved that he become a Babaji and took Babaji Vesh and lived his life as a Babaji, and he was always chanting. He was very happy. He was learned in the scripture, but his business wasn't propagating, his business was chanting. So the 3 of them, I heard this from Hari Suri. The 3 of them were in a room. Krishnadas Babaji asked the 2 over here and over there, both of you were very good writers, both of you were very qualified speakers, both of you were given the same assignment, take the teachings of Lord Chaitanya to the English-speaking parts of the world. One of you was successful, the other was not. Why? And it wasn't like, it was just God brothers to God brothers. So they chuckled and said joking things. And then Krishnadas Babaji said, the difference is Swamiji, meaning Srila Prabhupada, had all faith in the holy name. And you don't have the same faith in the holy name. Therefore, he was successful. So having great faith in the holy name is part of propagation. Say it the other way. When you have faith in the holy name, you'll be able to invest Krishna Bhakti in the hearts of others more effectively than without it. The message is the same message, but the effectiveness of delivering the message depends upon the consciousness of the person who's delivering the message. Same message. So Prabhupada gave that to us, and we're trying to give it to all of you, to all over the place. Faith in the holy name, taking full shelter in the holy name, so that the propagation of the Yoga Dharma can be effective. So there we are. Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Let's see if there's any discussion. Hare Krishna.
In Hinduism, in chanting, we come across the sound Om in many places.
Yes.
So in the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, there is no Om.
That's right.
So is there any reason for
Yes.
that?
Two things. Maybe three things. The sound Om is within, it's not vibrated, but the effect or that import or that which Om carries is within the Mahamantra. There's a long discussion, narrative discussion by scholarly Vaishnavas that makes that assertion and then gives scriptural references to say. Pranava is a sound that's addressing the Supreme. There's three A, O, M. So that those three are contained within the Hare Krishna mantra. So the if effect is already there. That's the explanation. One explanation. Another is Om generally doesn't stand alone. If there's a bija mantra or bija sound, and then there's a name, Narma, and then Namaha. Om Narayanaya Namaha. So three parts. So because the Hare Krishna mantra is not such a Vedic mantra, there's a reason why it's not such a Vedic mantra. There's no Om. Now if one adds Om in the front, that's okay, but it's already invested. And doesn't require it because it's not that kind of traditional Vedic mantra. Traditional Vedic mantras require those three. It's not there in the Hare Krishna mantra because it's embedded within. Just like, the vocative of Hara becomes Hare. Hara is the potency, the internal spiritual potency of the Supreme Lord. Hara. Vocative becomes Hare. And then the name. So when vibrating Om, it's the bija mantra that indicates that Hare Krishna. But then Hare Krishna is explicit. It's not just indicating, it's explicit. And therefore it's not required, it's not found. There's a third reason. To informally, people can read books and do all kinds of things, and the full effect isn't going to be experienced. To have the chant Vedic mantras that begin with Om, there's a requirement, and that is to receive the mantra from Guru. The Hare Krishna mantra doesn't require that. Anyone can chant. Any fellow. A drunken man can chant Hare Krishna and get spiritual benefit. And it's not an offense because he didn't get Diksha, mantra Diksha, he can chant. It's that kind of an approach. So it's especially effective for this age of Kali. And that's one of the reasons it doesn't have Om, because anyone can chant and it's no offense. The full effect can be achieved. Specifically for the age of Kali. It's customized for this age.
So if I were to chant like Om Namo Narayana without getting it from a guru, that would be offensive, right?
It's not offensive. It's not going to have the full effect.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
I mean, you know the whole story with Ramanujacharya and his receiving Om Namo Narayana, and he was told by his guru, don't tell, don't repeat. And he went up on a rooftop or a column and shouted loudly, what have you done? Because if it's so beneficial, others should receive it. So, there's effect. But the full effect is another thing. You have something.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. I'm just trying to connect something you said today with a slide from the Monday home program. I don't know what my question is specifically, but it's in the context of transcendental knowledge arises, Vidyavadu Jivanam, what you
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
And on the Monday, we had a slide about the wives of the Brahmanas, and that said that although they were not learned like their husbands, they lived their life according to or their lives were the essence of Vedic scripture, something like that. That
Yes.
was the slide.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
and Monday I was thinking about that because on one hand we know that learning Shravanam comes first, uh, then you receive transcendental knowledge. Uh, and clearly they were learned because in Canto 7, Prahlad Maharaj is called supremely learned because he knew Krishna. So I'm just trying to understand the wives of the Brahmanas and how they got the knowledge.
Well, because their wives are brahmanas and their husbands would recite Vedic texts. They heard. It's just like these children. They know some things. They know some things that some of the kids their same age don't know. Now, what does exactly it mean to them? You have to ask them. But their realization of what they might repeat that they've heard may not match, the fullness of the realization of that something that they've heard and repeated. The wives of the Brahmanas, on the other hand, these are Brijvasis. And it's a compare and contrast. Their husbands were vastly learned, but they were proud. The wives weren't vastly learned, but they were realized. Their hearts were soft, and they had it. The purpose of the Vedas is to know Krishna, love Krishna. Not just because he's a cute little boy. Because Krishna didn't go, he asked his cowherd boyfriends to go. And they immediately, because it's for Krishna, they immediately gave. Because their hearts were oriented, not so they weren't learned, but they had realization that their husbands didn't have that were learned. That's one of the lessons of that pastime. There's not erudition doesn't make you a particularly gifted Vaishnava. They weren't vastly learned, but they had realization from what they had heard. That answer?
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Can we draw a parallel to Prahlad Maharaj in the womb and his mother Queen Kaya? They both heard what Narad Muni was saying, but it didn't really affect one and it was absorbed by the other. Is there any?
Yes, it's similar. Now, what I understand from that situation is she understood to at least to a degree because Narada Muni. However, when the austerities of her husband were complete and she went back to the palace, in his association, she forgot everything. So her affinity for the temporary wasn't completely gone. But she had some realization. She had great appreciation for Narada. That's the bhakti points for Kayadu. But she had affinity for matter. And so she forgot what she had learned. But it was still there, covered. And Prahlad different. He didn't have affinity for matter. And he remembered. Anything else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So towards the end, you mentioned that it's very important to have faith in the holy name.
Oh yeah.
So I was just trying to understand, like, what does that mean to have faith in the holy name? Particularly, like, if I want to explain this to my kids, like, what should be the, how do we do that? Like, what's exactly faith, having faith mean?
Okay, in the context of a parent to a child, a dependent, the more, here's two things. More compelling than prachar is achar. If your child sees in you achar, character and conduct, that matches prachar, that's going to be more compelling than you say one thing and you do another thing. So that's how you can convey to your dependents, your children, what the efficacy of the holy name is by wearing it, or by being it, or by displaying that character and conduct. The more you can do that, the more it's going to have that efficacy. And then the second is you can give some simple examples to help them conceptually understand that the holy name and Krishna, the person, are not different. A classic one that Prabhupada would use is water, the word, and the substance are very different. By saying water, water, water doesn't quench your thirst. Or I can say chair, and it can't sit on the word. I can sit on the object. But this is a conceptual distinction, the compare and contrast. It's a teaching technique, compare and contrast, something known to something unknown. The name is not different. So then, together as a family, you give the concept or the precept, and then you sit together and you have Sankirtan. And if it's Sankirtan performed with a heart that's somewhat pure, there's going to be an experience. Even if it's modest, some experience for you and for the children. And they'll start to understand something about what the precept is through their experience. You have something.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much for revealing the meaning of Shiksha Ashtaka.
You're right by the speaker, you're probably getting blasted. Want to turn it? Turn it this way. Just what's on top. Okay, very good. Okay. Now you're going to get blasted. So just keep it soft. Go ahead.
A person who is not interested in chanting but more interested in doing services, will that person get the same benefit as chanting the holy name?
What do you think?
For me, the Yuga Dharma is chanting the holy name, so I think that is the first. Then just leaving chanting, giving second priority to chanting and giving service more important.
So go back to your example. Supposing that the character type that you just described is the situation. Your question you're asking is, will the purification be the same? The answer I would like you to receive is, begin somewhere. Some persons like to serve. It's described in the scriptures. Some persons just like. I like service. And I try to do something and people say, no, don't do it. Excuse me. I like service. No, that person who likes service and the object, if the object is Krishna or Krishna-centered, Guru or Vaishnavas or something, there's purification. And that purification likely will result in, at some point in time, some attraction for chanting. There's probably people at the temple, they don't chant, but they like to wash the pots, or take out the garbage, or mow the lawn, or, the something. They like service. It's because that's who we are, we're servants. And they like to do it, and along with the other service they do that make up their life, they especially like to come to the temple and do something, clean the floor, something, make garlands, something. Just bring flowers, bring something and put it on the hundi box so they can make some boga preparations in the kitchen. They like doing some service, and it's nice. It's nice. It's to be done. And gradually, purification, that's not going to, now back to your question, not the same, but it can lead to some attraction for chanting, because that's the Yuga Dharma. I may not be attracted to the Yuga Dharma, but I'm attracted to service. And serving Krishna is nice.
Thank you. How about the converse?
What do you mean the converse? Some persons like chanting but don't like service? Depends on the qualification. I mentioned this, generally speaking, here's a little, Krishna Das Babaji, a Kinchin of Krishna Das Babaji, more formally, lived in one of Bhaktisiddhanta's temples, and when Bhaktisiddhanta would travel to the temples, they said, this fellow, he doesn't like to do service, he just likes to chant. And he said, it's okay, he can do that. They were like surprised, because he was like heavy. You got to do some service. But it was because it was so genuine. Now, for everyone else besides a Kinchin to Krishna Das Babaji, there should be a combination. So what to do when somebody doesn't want the combination? You encourage them to do what they can do. And try to leverage the purpose of the chanting is to awaken the mood of service to Krishna. So sprinkle your chanting with some service to Krishna, please. So titrate, little by little, bring that tendency to practical life, practical application, service to Krishna. I think that tendency is less than the other tendency. People not so attracted to chanting, but they're more than willing to do some service. Different people like different services, but doing some service, and it's Vedic. It's purifying. Anything else? Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
jai.